So it's 10 minutes before 8 in the evening, and I've been very busy the whole day. I've had some posts to do. I've had to tidy up after quite a lot of wind last night. It was amazing. There was a storm come out of nowhere, and I had clipped back the driveway on both sides over the course of the weekend, and I put all the cuttings from one side into the hedgerow, and with all the wind last night, all the cuttings were blown out. So I had to go and sort that out, and that kind of delayed me. And then I decided to do my filing because, of course, I pay tax on the books that I sell. I also declare whatever I earn on Patreon, so I pay tax on that as well. And had to get all my receipts together and everything for Declan, who's my accountant, because one thing I really can't cope with is paperwork like that. You know, I get very anxious and in case I miss something or do something wrong, and then I'm in the wrong, you know. Fear of government in some ways, I suppose. A lot of people suffer with that. Anyway, so I made a little bit of a video this morning when I was in what is now my office. It's also been called the studio and the lodge. I suppose it's a bit of everything. So I made a little video this morning in there, and this particular video starts with that. And then it goes on to what I've just been doing over the past half hour, which is lighting my stove and preparing the cottage for the evening. So, enjoy. Well, it's a very good Monday morning to you all. I'm here in my studio, erstwhile called the lodge, when it was a kind of little lodge. When years ago I was doing bed and breakfast, and well, I kind of had to diversify as much as possible in order to bring in an income. And so now, of course, that my mortgage is paid off and I don't have that much pulling on my finances, although, you know, things are never quite stable, are they? I now use this as my office, and it's a little spare bedroom. So you can see all my books here, and I've got my laptop going on there, and lovely view there from my window. View of trees, trees, and more trees. Yeah, little chimes out there. It's a bit windy today. Anyway, got my stove lit. I have a stove in the sitting room, a stove here in the office, and a stove in the kitchen. This is a little second-hand one, and I paid, I think it was 120 euros I paid for this. And you know, it's funny. I'll just tell you my story here. There's the logs in there. My own logs from my own woodland. The best growing investment you can make. And the kettle came from a boot fair. Yes, Le Creuset. Almost new, except there was quite a lot of lime scale around it. I had to clean out, but there you go. So, yeah, the guy who I bought this stove off, his name is Peter. I meet him sometimes at the boot fair. You know, he's a bit of a character. I love to have an old chat. And every time he sees me, he says, I regret selling that stove. And basically the story went that he was selling the stove because him and his wife decided they were going to have a big fancy stove in the sitting room. And he reckons that the fancy stove hasn't given off much heat at all. And this wee fella here is the one that gave off the most heat. And you know, I have to laugh because I think it goes without saying for those of us with a bit of experience in the world that the older stuff, the older kettles, the older stoves, the older companion sets, whatever it is you're buying, the older the better, because I think there was far more quality made, and it might have been quality just in the very making of the cast iron, you know, whatever it was. But yeah, good quality stove, €120, bought many years ago, has paid for itself dozens and dozens and dozens of times over. That wee stove keeps this place snug as a bug in a rug. And I'll just show you around the windows here, because look at all this lovely growth, and the leaves are falling, and it's just beautiful. And this one here, which faces south. Now that's a lovely larch tree up there, and it loses all its needles during the winter, so there's more light comes in. And then this is the little window out onto the veranda, just surrounded by green. That's probably one of the reasons why I always feel fairly calm. Well, usually, except when I'm having a rant. So this is the little door that I found on a skip from a pub that was being done up, and you can see the demijohns of wine in there on the left, something I need to get bottled. I've been replacing the windows in this little door, on and off for the past few years. It's one of those jobs I do occasionally when I get the urge to see out that door. I replace another pane of glass. This is a beautiful card that my mother sent to me the last birthday I had before she died. And there you can see the sunlight coming in through the door. It's a very beautiful little place, you know, to work and to meditate and to think. And it's a little place that myself and my daughters and a friend all together built. So here I am, hours later, about to light the stove here in the sitting room. This form of heating works really well for me because these stoves are quite tiny. They don't take a lot of wood, actually, and they exude such an incredible heat. It's just amazing. And of course, I love the wood smoke. You know, you go outside, you smell the wood smoke. It's just lovely. The kindling that I use to light the stove with comes from my land. The logs that I'm burning and that I'll be bringing in shortly all come from my land. I don't cut trees down. There's no need to cut trees down. I pollard them and I coppice them. Now those are two really important skills that so many people don't even know about. And believe it or not, the willow makes great wood for burning. I keep saying this because willow is scorned by many. They say, oh, it's a wet wood, it won't burn. But it does burn beautifully. So that's from my experience, which I think is quite valuable actually, because a lot of people speak from, you know, hearsay or from books that they've read. But the actual living the life, you know, doing it, and experimenting and recording, which is what I've done for the past 18 years, brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. So, as you can see, it's not quite dark. The final bit of this video is recorded as it's getting really dark. So I've got lots and lots of dried wood, you know. You can see it when I walk around the woodland, you can see where I've stacked it, and it sort of air dries, you know. And while it's stacked, and I've shown you the little posts I put in the ground, and then the way I stack it like a little fence in between the posts, it looks lovely, and it just gets the best of the wind, you know, on both sides, and dries it out really quickly, and makes it available for burning at any point during the winter, even when it's been wet. Because it's stacked vertically, it doesn't get too wet, you know, it doesn't absorb the rain. Well, the top one does, but the rest don't. So here I am coming back in with the kindling. You see I've got big sticks of it. People say to me, oh, you know, your cottage is always so tidy and you're always so well dressed, and, you know, it must be a fake. But you can see how I live. Look, I've just brought the kindling in, and I'm not giving it any thought about what I'm doing. This is what I usually do. And I'm just breaking it up into little bits. It's nice and crisp and dry. put it in with some paper. I don't get a lot of paper here. So what I do when I do go and visit my family or friends, they know that I will take, you know, cardboard boxes and paper and stuff home with me. So they save it for me and I keep it in the barn. Sometimes during the winter I may bring it indoors to stop it getting damp, because there's nothing worse than trying to light damp paper. And yeah. Hear the clock ticking. Well, amazingly enough, the clocks that I have now going in the cottage, the one on the mantelpiece here in the sitting room, and I've got one in my bedroom, one in the kitchen, they're all working now. Sometimes they go for years without working, and I'll put a new battery in and everything, and it still doesn't work. So yeah, this cottage is very much alive. There are all kinds of elemental forces at work, and I just take it for granted. I don't question any of this. It's just part of my daily life, you know, and the rituals. And interestingly enough, I never feel that I'm living on my own. I always feel surrounded. And it's not particularly surrounded by people. I mean, I'm not seeing people or feeling people's presence, but it's something more than that. It's sort of otherworldliness that's very comforting. Just going out to get some logs now. That otherworldliness, I've tried to explain some of it in my book Walking Between Worlds, because that's how it feels most of the time. And when I switch on, I won't say switch on the news, because I don't really switch on the news, but when I do go onto YouTube and have a quick scout about to see what's happening out there in the world, none of that seems real. Isn't that interesting? And yet this kind of unreality that people would think I live in when I talk to them about this is very real. This is very real. I can taste it. I can feel it. I can submerge into it. It's like a beautiful lake sometimes, you know? You know, when you go into the water of a lake or whatever, you feel absolutely in touch with everything that's in there. Because of course you are. Your skin is the biggest organ in your body, and it's absorbing everything. It's absorbing more than what we can scientifically explain. Of course, science really is a nonsense in many ways. There are so many scientists who are looking through such a small little prism, and that makes sense to them. But when you open the prism up and make it bigger and turn it into the big world, they can't really get a handle on it. Yeah, there we go. So I've just switched on the lights in the kitchen. And here I come. And so the night is drawn in. It's 8:10. I'm going to go and make a cup of tea shortly and choose a DVD, watch that for an hour or so, do some knitting. I'm actually working on the sleeves of the jumper now. I've got the front and the back done. So I'm going to be very happy to show it. Well, I hope I'm going to be very happy to show it to you when I have it finished. I don't think I've made any major mistakes anyway thus far. A little update on the video that I promised you, which is about creating a nature table, bringing nature indoors. I'm going to be working on that tomorrow because I've got some lovely things that I've imagined. I mean, I've kind of imagined this, and I was walking down through the lower woodland on my land this morning and found some beautiful mushrooms. So there's all kinds of things that I want to share with you on this nature table or this nature sideboard or nature windowsill, wherever I decide to create it. So I'm looking forward to doing that video, and that should be out before Friday, I'm hoping. So blessings to you all, my friends, and thank you for those of you who have supported me on Patreon and who choose to buy a book. Oh, and a little update on the calendar. I have had words with my printer today. That was something else that I got to do. I spoke with my printer in Carrick, and I'm hoping to get a price back on the calendar tomorrow. Now, I'm only going to have a limited amount of copies printed because I don't want to be left with any on my hands. So once I've left it to the printers, I'm going to put a pre-order up. It normally takes about a week or so at the printers to get done. Once I get the calendars back, then I will be posting them off straight away, those of you who have pre-ordered. Anyway, blessings to you all. I must get my boots off now. Blessings. Be out in a cottage when I first saw it. And this is the view from the cottage, from the road up to the cottage. And this is the view from the cottage down towards the road.